Not all debt is bad. In fact, if you want to scale your business without giving away more equity, you need to understand debt. But not all debt is created equal, and the wrong kind of debt can absolutely bury you. In this video, we're going to focus on small businesses under $10 million of revenue. But here's the truth. These same tools, strategies, and mistakes show up in companies doing 25 million, even 250 million, and even bigger than that. The only thing that changes is the scale and the stakes. Hi, I'm RJ, the CEO coach, and I'm a retired 6-time venture and private equity-backed CEO. Over my career, I raised more than $300 million in capital, about 2/3 of which was in debt. I've also consulted with private equity firms on billions of dollars in debt investments in much larger companies. Now, I coach other CEOs to become their elite best selves, more focused, more effective, and more fulfilled in the role. And part of that transformation includes mastering one of the most misunderstood tools in business, using debt strategically to grow, scale, and protect what you've built. Let's jump into this, and let's be clear. Debt doesn't mean danger when you use it properly. Debt is a tool for leverage, not a band-aid. Great CEOs don't fear debt. They use it intentionally to fuel growth. The key is using debt to buy time or unlock profit, not to plug holes. For example, using debt to purchase equipment or finance receivables, smart. Using it to cover up losses from unprofitable ads or bad hires, risky. Actually probably stupid. So now that we know there's good debt and bad debt, let's walk through the 7 types of business debt that every CEO should know. Number 1, term loans. These are your classic lump sum loans, often from a bank or an SBA lender. Fixed rate, fixed term. They're great for one-time expenses like equipment build-outs or refinancing a more expensive debt. The pro, predictable payments. The con, slower approval process, and often personal guarantees may be required. The second type of debt, lines of credit. Think of this like a credit card for your business. You draw when you need, only pay interest on what you use. It's ideal for managing seasonal cash flow or late paying clients. The pro, it's flexible, fast access to working capital. The con, it can be pulled if your financials get weak. So the tip is here, get it before you need it. The third type of debt are SBA loans. Specifically, I'm talking about the 7A and the 504 programs. These are government-backed with long-term and low interest rates. They're often used for acquisitions, owner-occupied real estate, or refinancing other high-cost debt. The upside, long repayment windows and low rates. The downside, bureaucratic paperwork, personal guarantees, size caps that top out around $5 million. The fourth type of debt are revenue-based financing. With RBF, you borrow money and you repay it as a percentage of your monthly revenue. The more you make, the faster you repay. It's a popular option for e-commerce or SaaS businesses with strong recurring revenue. The pro on these is there's no equity and repayment adjusts with your income. The con, it can get expensive quickly if your business grows really fast. All right, that's the top 4. Before we dive into the last few types of business debt, I'd love to hear from you. So please take a second to drop a comment below. What's been your biggest win or your biggest fear when it comes to using business debt? Whether you nailed a smart financing decision or learned something the hard way, your experience might help another CEO watching this right now. All right, let's continue with the 5th type of business debt, accounts receivable financing, often called factoring. This is where you sell your unpaid invoices at a discount to get cash up front. It's great for B2B companies or agencies with long payment cycles. The upside is fast access to cash. The downside, you give up margin and sometimes control of the customer communication. The 6th type of debt is equipment financing or vendor terms. This is common when you're purchasing machinery, vehicles, or software, and the vendor offers to finance. It's usually tied to the asset itself, which makes approval much easier. The catch, sometimes there's hidden fees, rigid terms, and sometimes a higher effective rate. The 7th type of debt is business credit cards and embedded financial tools. These are fast and flexible. If you pay off the balance monthly, you get convenience and rewards. Tools like Stripe Capital or Shopify Loans, they fall into this category too. But if you carry a balance, the interest can absolutely cripple your cash flow. So how do you choose the right type of debt? Well, first off, you start by matching the term of the debt to the lifespan of the benefit. Buying a building, 10-year loan is fine. Hiring a new team, probably not something you want to finance with long-term debt. Look closely at your DSCR, your debt service coverage ratio, and your debt to EBITDA, and avoid stacking short-term loans on top of each other unless you have a clear plan to consolidate or refinance later. When in doubt, bring in a fractional CFO or a trusted financial advisor. This is strategy, this is not guesswork. Now, what changes as your company grows beyond 10 million in revenue? Well, here's the short version. Everything we just covered still applies, even if you're doing 25, 50 million, or 100 million. But your options and your responsibilities evolve. Lenders get a lot more aggressive. Commercial banks, private credit funds, even institutional lenders will start reaching out. And instead of one simple loan, they'll likely build a capital stack, senior loans, mezzanine debt, revolving lines of credit, even convertible notes. Your terms improve, less reliance on personal guarantees, for example, and more negotiating power comes into play, and in some cases, covenant-light facilities. But make no mistake, debt at this level also comes with strengths. For example, financial covenants, monthly reporting requirements, leverage ratios, EBITDA minimums, etc. And for larger companies, what about tools like SBA loans or revenue-based financing? Well, they start to fade out. At this scale, they're either too small or too costly to be effective. Anyway, before you take on any kind of debt, you need to assess your ability to repay it. Not just the best case scenario, but the realistic one. And that means looking at your historical cash flow, your gross and net margins, and how predictable your revenue really is. One of the most important metrics is your DSCR, or your debt service coverage. It tells you how easily your business can cover its loan payments with operating income. If that number is under 1.25, you're probably on thin ice. If it's over 1.5, lenders are going to feel more confident, and so should you. The bottom line, don't borrow against hope. Borrow against a solid plan, a resilient margin structure, and a clear path to ROI. So, is one of these 7 types of debt right for you? That entirely depends on your business, your margins, your growth plans, and what you need to keep growing, thriving, and sometimes just surviving. I highly recommend working with a full-time or a fractional CFO who has real experience with these types of debt instruments. They'll help you evaluate what's appropriate for your stage, your risk tolerance, and your runway. So you don't just borrow money, but you use it wisely. In my coaching practice, I'm maniacal about pushing CEOs to work hand in hand with their CFOs on proper financial modeling and forecasting. Why? Because it's not just about having a vision for the future, it's about building a concrete, numbers-driven roadmap that holds you accountable today. A great financial model doesn't just forecast, it forces clarity, alignment, and disciplined execution. All right, if you've got value from this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps more founders and CEOs find this kind of real-world advice. And don't forget to like and subscribe for weekly content on how to lead, scale, and grow like a true CEO. And if you want help building your own capital strategy that's tailored to your stage, goals, please visit us at www.inclinecapital.net. Again, debt is still just a tool, but smart CEOs know how to use it at every stage of growth. If you're serious about scaling your business to 10 million or far beyond, it's time to stop thinking of debt as a 4-letter word. Debt isn't a problem, it's power when used right.